Oh boy, the game is set to release on the 4th of September, and I can't wait to jump straight in to a game of Age of Mythology. What's the holdup with all these menus and settings? I'll just put anything and skip over it. Why does it look that way? Why does why does everything look this way? This doesn't look like the game I've seen videos for at all. I should ask Miss Villager. What? Oh, why do you look like that? What happened to your face? Welcome, heroes, villagers, and monsters alike. My name is Encryx, and this is Age of Mythology, Retold. The Complete Beginner's Guide, Part 1.5. Today's video is somewhat different. We won't be covering any gameplay, per se. Instead, we shall be exploring the settings. For a new player, this can be very overwhelming, as there are many settings that are thrust onto you the moment you open the game. So, I will be going over the most pivotal ones real quick. So, when you first open the game, you'll be greeted with your opening screen. To access our settings, we look to the top right of the screen with these three bars, and then click on it. Through this, we can access our settings submenu. The first one is the graphics. Pretty self-explanatory. I wouldn't fiddle with much here, except maybe increasing your frame rate all the way to 144 and turning off VSync. This just gives you a faster and crisper display. The real overwhelming part is through the video quality. There are so many settings that you can go over here. But generally, I would mainly turn down the water quality and the shadow quality, because they can tax your computer quite heavily. And you can also turn off or on the building weathering effects. For me, I personally turn it off because it's a little distracting. And for the processing, I usually have this off, mainly because I like a sharper image. I generally don't like how this game looks when it's nice and smooth, but that's a personal preference. It's a beautiful game, regardless. So, if you want to fiddle with any of these graphic settings, just be aware if yours is a lower end or higher end PC, and adjust accordingly. Next, the game settings. These three options here are all related to panning speed. Panning is how you shift your screen to look from one area to another. By default, all of these are set to a relatively high speed. Beginning with the first one, we have the arrow key panning speed. Using this setting, you can adjust how quickly tapping or pressing an arrow key will shift your screen. The next one we have is the click drag panning speed. To use it, we must have no units selected. Press and hold the right mouse button, and then our cursor will transform into this triangle, and we can drag to shift our view. I recommend you turn the setting down low or completely to 0%, because you can start panning the screen unintentionally. This can have gameplay implications and be somewhat annoying to deal with. And finally, we have screen edge panning. This is just by moving your mouse up, down, left, or right to the borders of your screen, that will move the screen to try and catch up, so to say. This is the most usual way that people move their screen around. But it can be turned off if you so desire. Next, we have this slider called the default zoom level. For me, I've set mine to 0, which means it is zoomed out as far as possible at the start of the game. I do so just so I can get a nice overview of my base. And I manually zoom in by using the mouse wheel and scrolling up to zoom in to my liking. Next, we have camera rotation. Having this turned on allows you to rotate the camera to possibly peek around corners or see behind buildings or objects that might be obscuring your view. At the bottom rightmost corner of the UI are all the buttons relating to camera rotation. The arrows to the left and right of that part of the UI, or pressing Ctrl and scrolling up or down will rotate the camera view. You can return the screen to its neutral north-facing position by pressing the N button in the middle of these two arrows. Next, we have some other gameplay settings. There are a ton of gameplay settings, but there are 3 that I wish to highlight here. Firstly is the immediately auto-queue villagers at game start option. I strongly recommend that you turn this on, because it just means that every game you begin, you don't have to worry or rush to left-click your town center and train a unit. It's just a wonderful quality of life feature in Age of Mythology Retold. Next, we have the auto-train villagers from newly built town centers. So during the game, if you build a new town center, it will automatically start auto-queuing villagers for you there as well. And third, we have allow villager priority. This should be on by default, but some players just don't want their villagers and economy to be managed for them, so they turn this off. I also want to highlight this option under the UI, this button called Alternative HD Layout. Should you press this button, you can change the position of where your resources are displayed, from at the top of the screen above your god powers to the bottom right of your screen, left of your minimap. For me, I generally like to have this on because it makes it easy to see both my resources and my minimap at a glance. Finally, we have the DLC settings. For those of you who are interested, you can actually view the old god portraits that were released with the original Age of Mythology. And I'll give you a quick sneak peek at all the gods and minor gods that have been retouched for Age of Mythology Retold. Personally, I think these are just some of the best art portraits for any game I've ever seen. Feel free to pause and take a closer look at each of these wonderful god portraits. If this piques your interest, please consider purchasing the DLC to support the creators of this beautiful game. And that will cover it for part 1.5 of the complete beginner's guide to Age of Mythology Retold. My name is Encrax, signing off. I'll see you legends in the next video.